Welcome to The Will Evans Show, a podcast that is meant to teach you everything you did not learn in school. And today we're going to be talking about the tipping screen, and then I'm going to answer your questions. Let's go. So at the beginning of every show, I say, hey, this is a podcast that is meant to teach you everything you did not learn in school. And a lot of you listen to every episode, and I thank you for that. Thank you for being a listener, being a part of this tribe. And some of you hear all this stuff, you agree with this stuff, but you don't do it. Every episode, I talk about coaching. You hear a commercial about Evans Financial Coaching. I tell you that I'm a coach. I can help you pay off debt, get on a budget, build wealth. And some of you hear that, and yet you're still living paycheck to paycheck. And so I just want to throw that out there that, hey, you can get to where you want to be financially. You just have to take control of your life, get on a plan, and do this stuff. You hear it every week, and so I just want to push you to do it. And this isn't for you to come and be a client of mine. It's not that. But some of you listen to this show, and it goes in one ear and out the other. And so whether it's you acting, hey, I'm actually going to create a budget. So do that today. Download the EveryDollar app on the App Store. You can download it for free, create a budget, and get on a budget. Start living within your means. Start telling your money where to go. Every dollar has an assignment. And now to the actual topic of this show, and that's tipping screens. Tipping screens have become very popular, and they became very popular during the pandemic back in 2020 when everything shut down, and then they allowed restaurants to open back up, and we had takeout. And that's when, hey, we started tipping the carryout people because they weren't able to serve at a restaurant and they had to make money. So a lot of people, me included, I would tip my takeout hostess that would bring me my food to my car. If I would walk in and grab it, I would tip them like I would tip a server, but it has gotten out of hands. I mean, unless you've lived under a rock, you know what I'm talking about. No matter where you go, you walk up and then sometimes they'll like spin their fancy iPad and like, hey, we have a couple questions for you. And it's like, they know what's about to show up. It's about to say, hey, do you want to tip 30%, 25%, or 20%? And then it's like, at the small little button at the bottom is like, no tip, or like, next. And it's like, I see all the time, look at people, they'll just click whatever and just add it to the bill. It just goes on their credit card, do whatever. And I'm not, if that's you being generous, that's fine. But I also don't want those of you to feel guilty by not tipping. Because I can assure you, if you're just handing me my drink, I'm not going to tip you. When my wife goes to Starbucks, I'm not going to tip you for making her drink because you are getting paid to make that drink. It's not like you live on it's not like you're at Sonic where the car hops, they only are making $2 to $4 and then everything else is tip based, or a server at a restaurant to where they're living on tips. And so I just don't want you to feel the shame or the guilt by not tipping because you just don't have to. And I read this article, and I mean, that's what I do in my spare time. Either people send me articles or I read them, and I came across this one, and it was titled, "Tipping Onslaught Pushes Some Consumers to Close Their Wallets." And I thought it was funny because I was like, wow, I mean, we went from being very generous during the pandemic to now it's just gotten out of hand. So they're just not, they're closing their wallets when it comes to tipping. And so it said 66% have a negative, 66% of Americans have a negative view about tipping, and 32% say they're annoyed about pre-entered tip screens. And one of the guys that wrote the article said, it's gotten noticeably worse in the past year. And I would agree. I mean, it doesn't matter where you go. These screens are everywhere. And 44% of Americans say they tip at least 20% at a sit-down restaurant, with obviously the older generation tending to be the best tippers. And hey, here's just a side note for, I think I'm Gen Z. I think that's what I am. Ben shaking his head. Yes, we're Gen Z. We're the young bucks. Guys, be generous. Open your wallet. And when you are at a restaurant, and look, here's a perfect example. Ben's soon-to-be wife, right now, she's a server. If she's serving you, you better open your wallet, because she is a great server and she deserves a big tip. So if you're seeing Haley, I mean, at least 30% tip on your bill. And so I'm sure, I mean, that would make Ben's day, it'd make Haley's day for sure. So guys, but seriously, on a serious note, Gen Z, the young bucks out there, my younger folks, open your wallet. When you're at a restaurant and someone is serving you, give them a good tip, 20% at least. Like, make somebody's day. And I understand. I'm one of those guys that I hate when I'm at a restaurant and I have terrible service. And at the end of the day, Kendall always reminds me, and I'm glad that she does, that, hey, we never know what that person's going through or whatever. So don't be the guy that leaves no tip because you have bad service. Leave something. If you want to knock it down a little bit, that's fine. I mean, obviously, I guess I'll never know. It's fine. But at the end of the day, open your wallet. Because, I mean, from the stat, 44% say they'd leave at least a 20%, and most of those being the older generation. So I'm sure that 60% of Americans is my generation, Gen Z, that are not tipping. And then it goes on to say 41% of Americans believe businesses should pay employees better rather than relying so much on tips. And this is actually a very interesting stat that 41% of people think, hey, the businesses should do that. And I guess I wouldn't really be against this, because, I mean, you're getting, somehow they're going to get their money. And I think you should pay your people well. But I think you should do both. I think the businesses should pay their people well, and we should leave a generous tip if they are serving us. That's the big thing when it comes to tipping. I will tip you, and I'm going to be very generous with my tip if you serve me. And if you go above and beyond, I will leave you a very big tip, because that is how much appreciation I would like to show you. Because when someone goes above and beyond, they have that good service, I want to reward that person. So I mean, I don't think the businesses have to do that, but I'm a firm believer, like, hey, pay your people well, because then your people they love coming into work. Your environment, your atmosphere at work is way better. So yeah, pay your people well and leave a generous tip if they're serving you. And then it says 18% of people tend to tip less or not at all when presented with tip screens, and 9% say they tip more. So more people than not, they tip less if they see these screens. And here's one thing that I kind of understand, but at the same time I don't, is when I walk into a restaurant and they say, hey, 18% is going to be added onto your bill. So I guess that's fine, but the thing is, when places do that, I usually don't leave a tip, unless like this person just goes above and beyond and I want to leave them something, or maybe if I have a little cash in my wallet. But guys, here's the problem with that. that just shows that we as Americans are not taking care of each other. When someone is serving you, tip them well, because they are putting those signs up because people are coming in and not tipping. I understand, like, hey, when they say 6 or more, we're going to add a tip. Yeah, that makes sense, because you don't want to be at a large group and you just busted your butt and nobody left you a tip. That makes sense. But at the end of the day, when it comes to tipping, the thing that fires me up about tipping is when I'm at an ice cream shop, or me and Ben, right before we started this show, we were talking about a local hardware store right down the street from us that we're tipping the person at the register at a hardware store. Why are we doing that? I mean, like back in the day, we had a tip jar. I never saw a tip jar at a hardware store. If I did, it was for some type of charity, not for the employees. And now that everyone's getting these fancy iPad screens, they're just automatically adding. And it's not like they're adding, hey, give 15%, 18%, or 20%. It's like, hey, look, we're going to do the biggest number on the left. So the first one you could click is like 30% or 35%. And then it's like 30 and 25 and 20%. And so I think it is pushing a lot of people away from tipping, and that's not good, because we need to be appreciative for the people in service. And I've had a conversation with a buddy of mine that I used to live with, and he was a server, and we always joked that, hey, everybody in high school should have to work some type of service job where they're serving people, because when they do that, they would tip a lot more because they know how it feels. They know the environment. And I love that. I think that's so true, because I hate to hear people that are serving, because, hey, a lot of y'all are picking up side jobs and side hustles, and a lot of that is serving because you can do that at night. And that's great. And I also want to be able to bless someone that's doing that. Like, hey, this is a single mom. She's working a second job just to make ends meet. I want to be able to bless her through tipping. But yeah, I mean, some of you're closing your wallets, and I don't want this to, this goes back ultimately to generosity. We talked about generosity on this show and how we want to be generous with what the Lord has given us. We are not the owners of the money that the Lord has given us. We are managers. We're called to be good stewards of our money. And so when it comes to leaving a tip, we have to listen to what the Holy Spirit is saying. And if He's saying leave a big tip, do that. And Kendall and I, we put that in our budget to where, hey, when we are prompted to do that, whether it's with a server or whoever it may be, we can do that because we have it in the budget. We have margin to do that. And look, I would even say that if you're on this plan, obviously you shouldn't be eating out at restaurants, so this shouldn't be a huge deal. But being generous, that just because you're in debt or whatever, does not mean you can't be generous. Like, you will never hear me say that. You will never hear me say, oh, because you're in debt, don't give money to anybody. Now, be reasonable. I'm not going to give you the whole paycheck, because I'm still doing what the Lord's called me to do by getting out of debt, getting a control of my finances. So I'm going to do that. But at the end of it, this has just been something that has really drove me crazy, is that a tipping screen has pushed people away from tipping because it's now everywhere. So I don't want you to feel the shame or the guilt if you don't tip on your Starbucks drink or your coffee or your ice cream, or what Ben witnessed at the hardware store. Like, you do not have to tip. Don't feel the shame or guilt. If you want to leave $1, leave $1. If you don't want to tip at all, that is okay. And tipping, it goes hand in hand with being generous. We're going to be generous with what the Lord has given us. You're listening to The Will Evans Show. Hey guys, it's Will. I know this show is all about what you didn't learn in school, but for some of you, you need a little more personalized help, and that's what Evans Financial Coaching is. I specialize in helping people pay off debt and build wealth. If this is you, I've put my contact info in the show notes, so please reach out. I'm here to help you. Evans Financial Coaching, creating paths to financial freedom. Welcome back to the Will Evans Show. This has been a little different of a show, but hey, this is a show that I am going to teach you everything you did not learn in school. And by looking at these stats, my generation apparently forgot how to tip. So I want you to be generous with your money. Guys, open your wallet, but you only have to do it when you are being served in some type of service role. Don't feel the guilt and shame of not tipping your local barista. But hey, I need y'all to do me a favor. I need you to like this show, follow this show, subscribe to it. When you do that, it helps the algorithm, helps this show get out there. This show is growing, and this is a dream of mine to be able to do this, to leave an impact on people. I feel like I'm walking in what the Lord has called me to do. And you can help me reach more people by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Share it with a coworker, share it with your friends, your family, post it on social media. I'd really appreciate that. It just helps everything out. But you just heard, we talked at the beginning of the show about financial coaching as well. You just heard a commercial about coaching. So seriously, some of you, I know some people, they probably skip through the commercials. If you need help, please reach out. I do this show to help people. So if that is you, please reach out. And we have a question from Instagram, and it is, how high should my auto insurance deductible be if I have an emergency fund? So, hey, this person says, hey, I'm on baby step 3, got my fully funded emergency fund. I'm now working on steps 4, 5, and 6. I'm investing, paying off my house early, saving for kids' college if that applies, and I'm working out the steps. But obviously, he listened to one of my last episodes, and I said, hey, for auto insurance, look for high deductibles. And when I say high deductibles, I'm not saying you got to have like a $5,000 deductible. I don't want that to come across, but here's what I do. And again, this is how I answer every question. If I woke up in your shoes, what would I do? Well, here's what I would do. Or here's what I did. Me and Kendall did this. When we got married, I had a $500 deductible, I believe. I think it was $500. Well, and then when I got married, we did a $1,000 deductible, and it lowered our premium. So all because we lowered or raised our deductible, we got a lower premium. So hey, $1,000. Sometimes you can do a $2,000 deductible. That's fine, because look, your emergency fund is 3 to 6 months of expenses. So for most people, you're probably going to have $10,000 in the bank. And so you can pay that deductible. And obviously, I guess it also depends on how many times do you get in a car accident. For me, I don't want to jinx myself, but I haven't been in a major car accident to where I've had to pay my $1,000. I haven't had to pay my $1,000 because I haven't gotten in a wreck. And so my ROI, my return on my investment of having a lower premium has worked out for me so far. And hey, I have $1,000 in my emergency fund. So that's kind of my recommendation on how high should my auto insurance deductible be. $1,000 is not a set number. It's whatever works best. Look at your emergency fund. But hey, if you got, especially if you're close to that 6-month emergency fund where you probably have anywhere from $8,000 to $30,000 in an emergency fund, hey, raise that deductible, because at the end of the day, you can probably cash flow that in your monthly budget as well. And that's kind of what I looked at too. If something were to happen, we can cash flow that $1,000 out of our monthly budget without even touching are our emergency fund. So again, I love having these questions. So I want y'all to keep sending them in. You can do it by email. Send it to ask@evans-fc.com. You can send it in through Instagram. My handle is I'm Will Evans. That's I am Will Evans. Also, if you're not following me, please do. I got some listeners from all over the country and even some other countries. And so, hey, reach out to me. I want to hear from y'all because I want to get to know y'all. So, hey, send me any questions that you have, and you can do it through email, Instagram. And as always, I put those in the show notes. You can always find it there, or any information that we talked about is in those show notes. And as always, it's a big thank you to Ben for running the boards, making this show run. It always sounds great. And remember that no one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and wealth. This is The Will Evans Show.